Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is a late breaking edition of the Kenny and Renny show. Maybe the latest breaking edition we've ever had before. Just to explain, for those who would have been watching, Jets game on earlier because it was a regional game. They put it on to get it out of the window of the national games. I was doing the Nashville Predators, Ottawa Senators game. So just as that game was wrapping up, the Winnipeg Jets game, I was just going to air. So we had to wait until I was done, got back to the hotel, doing this thing, ready to go. It's just a way of saying, who loves you if not Renny? You know what I mean? Like just grinding all day. And here I am now to show up and host the Kenny and Renny post-game show after not having seen the game. Cue your immature and obvious comebacks where you will say, oh, well, should be as good analysis as he's ever given on this show before. I will say this. I'm going to go through this really quickly. Looking from afar, I was able to check in on the goals the Winnipeg Jets scored. So, hey, we talk about it on this show time and again, and we've been talking about it quite a bit lately. The kind of goals that we think the Winnipeg Jets need to be scoring to get going, get to the net, get to the puck there. Another redirect by Gabe Vilardi to put the puck in the back of the net. The game winner in the end is Mark Scheifele just going to the front of the net. Kyle Connor, low angle shot, not a high chance shot by any means at all, but he gets the puck to the front of the net. Good things happen when you go to the net. Boom, it's in the back of the net. The third line looking to start to be waking up, getting a very third line looking goal. From the goals that I saw, I liked what I saw from the Winnipeg Jets. I think it's the kind of offense that they've needed to be getting. And I can't make any commentary on the game, the quality of the shots that the Winnipeg Jets got or the quality shots that the Chicago Blackhawks got. But this looks to me like, okay, Blackhawks get a, like we see from the Jets lot, the Blackhawks get an opportunistic goal. They score on their first shot of the game. How are the Winnipeg Jets going to respond? You have to like the way that they responded. You have to like that for the second time in the game, they come back in that game. You have to like that they keep going and take that, end up on top and win the game. On the surface, what it looks like is it's, coming back in the game the same way that they did in against the Buffalo Sabres. I can't tell you if this was a different game from the Buffalo Sabres, but what I can tell you is from the shot count that seems to be going in that game, this game looks more to me like what we saw from the Jets in the beginning of the season. Remember, the Jets went to overtime against the Chicago Blackhawks the first time they played them. And the credit I gave to them at that time, and I would do so over again, is staying with their game the proper way, staying confident, staying engaged, and, eventually working your way over in this game. To me, the shot count suggests, I don't know because I wasn't watching the game, the shot count suggests that the Winnipeg Jets just went out against, I think, are the Blackhawks last in the league now? I believe they are. And made it a no-doubter, right? Whether or not they get an opening goal on their first shot and it's opportunistic, the Winnipeg Jets, from what it looks like, from the way that they did this looked like what I thought a lot of Winnipeg Jets games would have looked like in the stats line at the beginning of the year. The kind of game where the Winnipeg Jets just went out and said, doesn't matter if you score opportunistic goals, doesn't matter what you do in these situations here. We are going to just inexorably take over this game and leave no shadow of a doubt who should have won this game. That's what I see from that. I can't contrast it to the Sabres game. I will give a nod and a shout out to the many, many people out there who were reaching out to me, just absolutely insulted by my take in the last game of the Winnipeg Jets against the Buffalo Sabres. And what I saw in that game was a ugly game played by two teams that were playing an ugly style game. Was it a good thing the Winnipeg Jets won and got those points? Like I'd said in the show, great opportunity for them to get those 2 points, break a 4-game losing streak, maybe build some confidence. Maybe they built on that tonight. Again, I can't add to it, but all those people who were reaching out to me and trying to tell me that game was like the meeting of the two best teams in the league, and the Buffalo Sabres are way better than I'm giving them credit for. There's been a tire fire burning in that city ever since, and they got absolutely pumped today by the Anaheim Ducks. So listen, you're going to call me up and try and take me to task for my takes. Do better than trying to suggest that the Buffalo Sabres were some kind of artificial standard that you were making them out to be, and that the Winnipeg Jets game against them was a perfect example of them, grinding it out against a really, really good team. That's a struggling team. So what I'm trying to get to is, I would have liked the stat line that the Winnipeg Jets had tonight to have been the stat line that they would have had against the Buffalo Sabres. Not the Buffalo Sabres with them at every single point of that game, out shooting them in the end, controlling the play for wide swaths of the game. I don't think that happened tonight. The numbers would suggest that they wouldn't. This is what games by the Winnipeg Jets, if they are going to maintain their standing as one of the top teams in the league, this is what games by the Winnipeg Jets need to be looking like against lower echelon teams like the Blackhawks. And that's what I was trying to say in the last game. This is what the game should look like when they played the Sabres. And it definitely looks like it was a better effort than what they had against the St. Louis Blues. That's my take on the whole thing, folks. Time to bring in the guy who actually watched this game and also just happens to have the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny, folks. Kenny, I don't even know what happened in this game here tonight, but I'm so tempted to give Bingo Bango the tell him to get out of my tub, because this is
start it off. There you go, buddy. There you
Renny
go.
is right. I mean, that's all I need to see.
Hang on a second. Just put that on a t-shirt. Let's get that on a t-shirt. How about that?
We should, with the K.
Let's get that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Yes, that would be good. I like it. We are going to go there. That's kind
of out of your mouth, buddy. It's out of your mouth.
That's kind of not fair, but we'll go there anyways. Bingo Bango, get out of my hot tub with that hot take. You must be sitting in my backyard right now, soaking away in my Arctic Spas hot tub with the Spa Boy package, because we all know there's no such thing as a cold take in an Arctic Spas hot tub, especially if you go head on down to see my guy Dustin down at Arctic Spas. You have any interest in looking at hot tubs, getting one for the backyard, freezing some of those ice cold takes we've seen out there with all those messages you were sending me over the last couple of days, head on down. Dustin, my guy, can help you with that. Ken, you already changed, already moved on. So I'm the Vittorio Rossi representative here tonight. This is an old classic there, the gray suit, the black tie, one of the classics that they set me up with that I've been rocking for years, Frankie and the boys, because they got the kind of stuff that's not just going to last you one season or 1 year. You can pull these things out as long as you don't rip the pants out of them like I've done in the past when I've gained too much weight on the road in places like Nashville. It's a funny story. I think I told it one time. Not going to tell it again. But what I will tell you is head on down to Vittorio Rossi on Corden Avenue. Walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you up right, put you in the kind of fashions that you will be able to rock for years and years and years. Ken, great to see you. Hope you're enjoying Chicago. Tell me about what you saw in this game tonight.
Yeah, it was pretty dominant second and third for sure. I mean, I think that the first is a little bit misleading, Sean, because the Jets actually were quite good until giving up the goal. Chicago was having trouble getting it into their end. And then you get the over the glass penalty after a lengthy discussion with the men in stripes. I think obviously it was right, or else the Jets would have challenged it and tried to get it overturned. But the Jets generated plenty early, but gave up the first goal. Another one of the weird plays. Again, I know from the left point, we're not trying to dump on Logan Stanley here, but Logan Stanley was engaged with Tyler Bertuzzi earlier in the shift and didn't clear him from the front that time. Then the puck went to the other side, but it was from the left point. So Vlasic's shot it was in an area where I would have expected Stanley to have the guy in front, but Bertuzzi was inside the blue paint, Sean, but didn't make contact with Connor Hellebuck, which is why the Jets didn't challenge. There was nothing to challenge. Gabe Vilardi gets it tied up with another ridiculous hand-eye coordination tip, and then the Jets just have an absolute brain cramp at the end of the period, Sean. I mean, this is something that's been happening a lot more lately. We know it's probably a little bit of that combination mental fatigue kind of situation, but Alec Martinez just didn't get picked up on the back check. I mean, this was a situation where Chicago has, got a new coach in Anders Sorensen. They want to get their defense more active, and Alec Martinez just found an opening, got a pass, and buried it for Mikheyev. And that was a goal with 13 seconds left. And then you kind of wonder, Sean, is this going to be a game where the Jets let the Blackhawks hang around? Instead, they got out the boa constrictor in the second and third and only gave up 3 shots in each period and only 1 high danger chance total, and that came in the third. So a pretty stifling effort defensively. Was it a Picasso at times? No, but overall, I think this is really telling, Sean. Nino Niederreiter saying to me after the game, this was the first time we outworked a team in a while. And
yes,
that was pretty.
There you go, true serum. That's good.
Pretty telling there from El Nino. So, and again, I think that there was effort. There definitely was effort in the games against Vegas and Dallas for sure. But those other teams had a little bit of a different level. And that's why, I mean, again, sometimes, when the teams are relatively equal, like Dallas and Vegas, you have to outwork the opponent, right? Not just work at their level. So for me, that was where they took another step forward. That late goal was against the Scheifele line, Sean. And again, they've had a couple wobbles in the last while, but two goals for today, including the game winner. Another big step for Mark Scheifele in the snub world. Mark is doing his best to play well coming out of the announcements, and I had a chance to ask him about that today, and he gave the answer we expected him to give. He was very very humble about it. He said he admitted he was disappointed, but said his focus would be here. And he said, Canada's got a lot of great players, and he went out of his way to congratulate his close friend and teammate Josh Morrissey. So for the record, I quite like the answer. And more importantly for Mark and for the Winnipeg Jets, Mark is playing great since the announcement was made. So, I mean, again, it's a long season. And this is what I just wrote in my piece at winnipegfreepress.com, Sean. I mean, for Mark, he needs to play well to stay on the radar for an injury replacement, but he also needs to play great to, stay on the radar for the Olympics because he wants to be there. I mean, will it be tougher in a year and a half? Yes. But I mean, Mark's a pretty motivated guy we've seen over the years. So I would say overall, mostly impressive effort, a couple lapses in the first, but after that, they really gave up almost nothing, Sean, to be honest. So, and they didn't let the Blackhawks hang around, even though the score would say it was still close. And yes, obviously it was. It was not close in terms of territorial play or effort. And, it's a game the Jets had to have. I mean, I was talking with Mike Harrington of the Buffalo News in Buffalo. And I was talking about how the Jets had been playing, and Mike quickly looked at the schedule and said, well, if you're the Jets and you've lost 4 in a row, you got to have 4 points in these 2 games. And that's exactly what they did. It wasn't always pretty at times, but this was much more like how they look when they were playing better. Now the challenge will be to do that when, this week, the level of competition is also on the rise. People can say what they want about Columbus, but Columbus, for what they've had to go through, and they've had a lot of emotion, Sean. They had the games with Calgary this last week, so their emotional threshold is probably pretty taxed, but they've handled themselves really well in the last little while here. And I mean, it's going to be a big week. They got Boston coming in. Boston's won 4 in a row. They've got Vegas coming in, and then the Patrick Laine return, which you and I are also looking forward to, Sean. I mean, Saturday night's going to be always fun when the Habs are in town. And, Patrick with goals in his first 2 games. I didn't have a chance to see what he did today, but I think this week is going to be a fun week of hockey at Canada Life Center. But anyways, just tying a bow on it all. Mostly impressive by the Jets. Important step forward for sure. And now it's up to them to, they've survived this test on the road, and now, they go home for four games, and we'll have a chance to recharge a little bit, and we'll see play. Eric pipes tomorrow, by the way.
So Ken, I'm just going to try and play off of some of the things that you're saying, but what you're talking about with the Jets about how it looked like it was close, right? And I guess when it's close like that, the opposition is always just one shot away from either tying it up or taking the lead or whatever it is. But I guess hearing your analysis of the game and the Jets kind of shutting things down, 3 shots per period the last little while, it sounds like the kind of night where the Jets need to be given credit for the idea that even though it was close for a large swath of that game, they stuck to what was working and what was going to win them that game, which is like shutting things down defensively, and didn't kind of abandon that structure in a mad rush to maybe go out and get that winner. Just back to that confidence that we saw at the beginning of the year of a team that just understands that keep playing the game the right way and things are going to turn out the right way.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that that's sort of how Scott Arniel described it. He goes, hey, it's another game that's tied late. And this is the quote: we weren't stretching or we weren't straining to score a goal. We let things come to us. So, I mean, that it sort of encapsulates how the game went for the Jets. So
it's like I was there, Ken.
There you go.
I was there, ready to break it down.
That's why we waited to have you on the show here. So
no doubt.
Yeah, it was impressive. And that part of it is important too, because we've seen kind of strange breakdowns in the structure. And yes, like I said, there was one late in the period for sure, no doubt about it. But there weren't any after that. They absolutely clamped it down and made sure that there was no doubt as to what was happening. Yeah, again, like I said, when a team stays close and when the game winner is scored, with what, 10:18 of the third period, then yes, it was close. But Chicago was having trouble getting into the zone, Sean, right?
Right.
It's hard to score when you're not in the offensive zone for very often. Connor Bedard is trying incredibly hard out there, got an assist on the goal from Vlasic, 2 shot attempts. I thought he had a couple good bursts, but he needs help out there. And it doesn't matter what the coaching change is. He needs some help in terms of the personnel side. And I expect that he'll continue to try as hard as he can out there. And he's fun to watch, even when he's not, all over the place out there. He had that burst with the net being pulled, net empty, and he has a big rush up ice. But anyways, all to say that I think that the Lowry line, Sean, we'll dig in on them quite a bit here. But Adam Lowry made life extremely difficult for an incredibly talented player. There was one sequence in the first period where it looked like Bedard was going to try to make a move at the blue line, and Lowry just kind of leaned on him, and then they got the puck going the other direction. And that's, I think, when Niederreiter had a great chance from the slot. I thought that line was exceptional. Absolute battering ram shifts for them. The goal by Niederreiter is exceptional. Great plays all around. They were buzzing all night long. Mason Appleton's empty netter, I didn't even realize this, bad on me, but that snapped a 16-game drought for Mason. Hadn't scored since November 1st, but also his critical assist on the tying goal was absolutely a tremendous effort by him. And Lowry, the last couple of games, just impressive.
I wanted to do this. It's been a while. I kind of forgot about all of this. Maybe it hasn't been called for as much, or maybe when it's been called for, I haven't been as on the ball with it. But Russell James Peters says definitely a headband day, and I agree. Time to bust it out. It's been far too long. Time to make this a Sean's headband version of the Kenny and Renny show. Kenny, I'm going to wear it Bret Michaels from Poison style over the eyebrows.
Good work.
Try some new stuff here. Been a while for this. Hey, I wanted to just touch on this quickly. I don't want to hijack the show, which this kind of does a little bit, but I can turn this into a Jets thing here. Pat Rathwell says, Renny, what's wrong with the Preds in your opinion? They are word from within the organization and within the dressing room is that they feel that they do not have strength down the middle. Stamkos right now is playing center on the top line. He's not a center, right? Ryan O'Reilly injured. The one thing I'll say about this team, and it's interesting because I've covered the Sens now for a number of games, and they seem to always play really good when I'm there. And I haven't seen the kind of swoons that they've had so far. The one look I'd had at Nashville before this was that game against the Jets, where they looked every bit like what you would think that team was going to look like at the beginning of the year. Tonight, you could see it's painfully obvious. I mean, watching Steve Stamkos on that team right now, it's painful. Like, it is painful how much trouble he's having right now and how frustrated he is. What I'm talking about with the Jets is essentially that game 2 weeks ago. Talked with a lot of players on the team, a lot of people within the organization. They looked at that game against the Jets and they said, that's the best game that we've played all year. And they really haven't come close to that since. There was a game that they played the Vancouver Canucks early on that they thought was like a very similar game. And then they followed that up, if you remember, by taking a penalty for submitting the wrong lineup card to start their next game against Seattle and got shut out 3-0. They've been shut out 5 times this year already in the first however many games. They only had 3 shutouts the entirety of last season. Think of this. With all those guys that they added, they are having a historically low for their franchise number of goals this year. Think of the expansion era that they came in, like the kind of expansion teams you had weren't what we have now. They were like a team full of everyone's fourth liners, and those teams were scoring more than this team here. Just if you're a Jets fan and you watched that game two weekends ago, I believe it was 2 weekends ago, what you saw was not anywhere near a level that the Nashville Predators have kind of reached throughout the year. So I feel free to lament the idea that the Nashville Predators, the one or second time this season that they've found who they are supposed to be, just happened to happen against the Winnipeg Jets. So it was bad timing for the Jets to head into that game, no doubt. Ken, just before we dive into that third line you want to talk about, can you give Sweet Lou a shout out?
For sure. For folks who have realty needs they'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU at LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community.
I'm just really happy to see all the people in the chat room, especially after the wait that we've put you through here. So thank you very much for that, folks. That's extreme. We're extremely happy with that. Okay, let's get into the third line. So Ken, again, sorry, you want to go somewhere before we do that?
I do, just quickly. I just noticed a couple of Brad Lambert comments in the room here. Let's here, Lambert getting better every game. So what you wouldn't have seen on the highlights, Sean, Lambert, pretty good chance in the first. The puck kind of kicks out to him. Soderblom had just replaced Mrazek, who left with the lower body injury. Looked like maybe a groin issue or whatever else. Nonetheless, Soderblom kind of down and out, but the puck kind of wobbles on Lambert. He doesn't get much wood on it. But in the second period, man, Nino Niederreiter makes just an absolutely filthy pass to him, basically staring at an open net. There is a defenseman kind of sprawling and trying to go, but like Brad hits the puck a little bit too early rather than let it get to the stick and bang it into the open net. And he shoots it wide and he like stares at the rafters and like literally can't believe it. I mean, when I asked Scott O'Neill about it, he said, you're going to be having nightmares about that one you're a young guy looking for your first NHL goal. Man, that's one that you're going to lament a little bit, but it feels like it's something that Brad was he was sniffing the puck. He was sniffing the net a lot better today, I thought, moving really well. Yes, he got skipped once or twice later in the game with the Jets protecting a 1-goal lead, but even Mark Scheifele pointed it out when I asked him about it. Brad Lambert was playing with more confidence today. He was moving his legs. I thought he was responsible defensively, but really effective in most of the game. And it's just a matter, if he keeps getting chances like this, he's going to start piling them up, Sean. And that's what Brad Lambert needs to do before Nikolai Ehlers comes back. If he wants to plant the seed that, maybe don't wait for me till later. Maybe I can help you now, right? So I thought that it was important for Brad to take that step. We talked about it. We liked his first game, a lot of things about it, but he seems to be getting a little bit more involved. And especially, Sean, after getting bumped down to the fourth line for a good chunk of the third period the other night, I thought it was important for him to sort of regroup and play with a little bit more confidence with the puck on his stick, kind of making a few more plays. And I agree. Somebody else had said, Pat Rothwell says maybe Lambert can help get Perfetti going. Look like there's a little bit of chemistry there. I would say that that's accurate, but the best setup of the game was by Nemesnikov to Lambert too. So, I mean, that line's got to get going for the Jets also. But I think it was an important step forward for Brad today.
Ken, you're going to have to let's get back to the third line. So from what I saw, and it wasn't a lot, but the goal that they score looked to me to be back to the kind of goals that we see from that line. Heavy in on the forecheck, puck support, first man gets in there, either takes the puck away or holds up the man, separates that, second guy goes in, and the third guy just does a really good job. This is layers, okay? When you talk about this, different lines do layers in different ways, right? So Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor and Gabe Vilardi do a really good job of like creating those layers of one guy goes here, here's the second guy scoring. Quite often Neil Pionk or Josh Morrissey are really good at jumping in to be that kind of third layer kind of guy. It takes a certain kind of pacing to understand how each team creates their layers, and only good lines create layers, right? But how I always see, like, Nino is just in the perfect spot based on where that forecheck is going to get the puck and be in a really good spot to go in all on his own. To me, there's a timing, there's a pacing that goes with that, there's a chemistry that goes with that. We all know the third line has chemistry. I will say it feels like we haven't seen that chemistry on display for a little while. I thought that third line, to a degree, has been discombobulated for a while, at least when it comes to the offense. But if we're talking about, success, like the last game, you get the 2 points, that gives you a little bit of confidence. You move on and you build on that confidence. To me, this is the kind of goal the third line needed to score to start bringing up that confidence level, so that they're, and maybe Adam Lowry doesn't need it because he scored the game winner in overtime for Buffalo. But this, to me, that was your prototypical third line goal. That's the kind of goal that kind of gets you feeling the juices again. That's the kind of goal that's like, okay, now I remember how to play off this guy. When Mason Appleton goes in and hits the check, I'm going to delay just a little bit. And then if he does come away with it, I'm going to be in the perfect spot. What do you take away from how they were able to create that offense, how they're kind of working off each other, and just how they are working as a shutdown force right now?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was wild. So, together at 5-on-5 today, 12:27 of ice time, 8 shots for, 0 shots against. And they were playing against Bedard for the majority of that time. So, scoring chances 4, 7, scoring chances against 3, high dangers 4, 3, high dangers against 1. So, this was a dominant performance. Scott O'Neill told me after the game when I asked about him, he thought that line could have had 5 tonight, Sean, and he wasn't exaggerating. Like, they were really doing an incredible job on the cycle. It was very impressive. There's no doubt about it. It's the best line that they played together in a while for me, and they needed to get rolling once again. And this was a really big step for them also. And also too, Appleton's a guy who always brings value added to the table, but it was an important goal for him, Sean. That line, when they're going, everybody's contributing. So for Appleton's at 5. Adam Lowry is it 6 or 7? Let me, sorry, I got to go to the notes here. Adam Lowry with the GWG the other night in overtime is at 7. And Sean, Nino Niederreiter double digits in goals today, became the fourth member of that team to hit double digits. I mean, it's impressive. It's game 28 for the Jets. That line has, 10 plus 7 plus 5. They've got 22 goals, and it's an impressive number for me. And the majority of those goals are at or at even strength.
Ken, I'm going to have to ask you to do this because, again, I'm blind to a degree going in here. But if you can think of a Pristine Roofing wake-up call,
Oh, boy.
What do you have?
Well, I think we got to give it to the Hawks here because they got a coach fired 2+ years into a rebuild. So for me, again, we're not trying to pile on here. And, I would listen in to Anders Sorensen's pregame presser today. Sean even asked him a few questions about, what the feedback's been like in Sweden. Big moment for him. First Swedish head coach in the NHL. And he handled himself really well. I was impressed by what he said. And, some of the things he wanted to see, specifically the defense get more involved, happened in game 1. So this is a team that is really, really struggled. Most of all, their veterans need the Pristine Roofing wake-up call, Sean, because the veterans were supposed to come in and insulate guys like Connor Bedard. They're making Bedard's job harder right now. And for that, I'm giving the Hawks as a whole the Pristine Roofing wake-up call, specifically to their veteran players.
Yeah, they could use it after 5 straight losses. But I like the idea because I'll be honest with you, I haven't, some of the guys that they brought in, I thought would make a little bit more of a difference. And
Oh, man, Bertuzzi. Come on, man.
Wow,
Even they had a great screen today, but wow.
Yeah.
You need more.
Yeah, no doubt. Anyways, that's your cue to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing wake-up call, which so many of you have been doing, and thank you for that. We love it when our sponsors feel like they're getting massive value out of investing in the podcast, that these conversations that are happening in this space. But you know what to do. Give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing wake-up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy you want down at your place for all your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing directly at 204-237-7663. Okay, Ken, getting to the top line, let's maybe break it down with each player. I thought that Gabe Vilardi has kind of been instrumental at working that line out of the little bit of the funk that they're in. Now, a lot of this is going to have to do with the fact I was listening in. I was reading on some of the quotes on the car ride home. Clearly, Mark Scheifele getting back to the middle on that line has been a big difference maker. It was one of those things that really hurt, one of those subtle things. People are looking and they're like, well, Mark Scheifele's still there. He's still on the first line. There's no difference. But little things like taking him and moving him out of the middle has a massive effect. Moving Gabe Vilardi into the middle has a massive effect. Just like taking Sandberg out of the lineup, I think has been one of the key factors to the struggles that the Winnipeg Jets have been having. Little differences like that can make a really, really big difference on the success of your team. But let's start with Gabe Vilardi. Second straight game that he's, getting to the front of the net, tipping the puck in. What he does really, really well. He's not the fastest guy. I haven't seen him working the boards as much this year, but at a time when we on this show, or I don't want to take credit for you, one of the things I've been saying, my belief is the Jets, in order to start scoring more, just needed to get to the front of the net, get gritty, get in the goalie's eyes, make it hard for him to stop pucks because the Jets weren't scoring. I really thought Gabe Vilardi led the charge, and it looked like he did so again tonight.
Yeah, he was fantastic again, Sean. His ability to tip pucks is absolutely obscene now. And it's really interesting. I mean, I'm glad that Gabe was so open. I mean, a couple of the conversations, and you were there for the one in Winnipeg, Sean, where he talked about, his hips being sore from the faceoffs. But when we talked to him after the game in Buffalo again, he just reiterated that he wasn't playing center, but a lot of the switch offs required after taking draws, it was really disrupting the flow of the line. And Gabe in particular, because he doesn't have the same explosive skating speed that his line mates Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor have. Now when he's stuck playing down low, it's not cohesive getting up the ice for that line. So since Mark has gone back to the middle, not only has Mark elevated his game tremendously, Vilardi has found another gear again and seems like he's getting going. So For me, it's been very impressive. I mean, today, the goal is impressive, of course, but I thought Velarde's hands in tight, and a couple of the plays he made along the boards were just absolutely spectacular. So that's where I'd start there with him. Even in a game where he had only one shot and 2 attempts, I mean, Gabe was all over the place. It seemed like the puck was on his stick a ton. He won a ton of battles down low, and I was impressed by his game for sure. And all 3 of the guys on the line played quite well. Like I said, outside of the laps of not picking up the trailer on the goal. And I know some people in the chat are saying that they didn't like the goal on Hellebuck. I mean, to me, it was basically bar down from Martinez. So I don't blame Hellebuck for that. And for the people on Hellebuck for the Vlasic goal, Bertuzzi was in his lap, essentially, Sean. I don't think Connor saw it. That's why it squeezed through him. I mean, Connor's not the kind. If Connor sees a wrist shot from the point, he's going to stop it 999 times out of 1,000, and the one that goes in is either one that he didn't see or one that bounced off somebody. So I don't agree with the takes that Connor wasn't good on either one of the goals. But anyways, sorry to digress. Scheifele, very good. I love the way that he's handled the disappointment. Of course, we know he's disappointed, and again, he's got to stack a ton of games now. But and Kyle Connor's just getting back. I mean, higher volume on Thursday, Sean. 10 shot attempts the other day. Today, the number was lower, but I thought he was really moving the puck, and his play is a prime Sean Reynolds example of what you were calling for. Scott O'Neill talked about attack mode. That's attack mode in terms of 3 things. A sharp angle shot.
Yeah.
You have chaos created by Velarde.
Yeah.
Again, it's a great example. If Velarde is not there going to the net to have the defenseman come to him, the defenseman is on Mark Scheifele, and there's no rebound to be scored.
Yes, exactly. And beyond that, because Velarde is, to your point, creating so much chaos, the goaltender is somewhat distracted, because you look at that. I mean, there's no doubt about this. This is a bad rebound. There's no doubt about it from that sharp angle. It's like almost hard to give up that bad of a rebound. But the reason it happens is because the chaos is in the eye of the goaltender. And when you make things busy, you create that kind of chaos that makes a goalie's brain, it takes him a little bit off of it. But anyways, continue on, because I love where you're going with this and what you've been pointing out about it.
Yeah, I mean, and it is attack mode, but it's also disruption mode, and then that's something that we often talk about shot selection, right, Sean? Especially with that top line, they're not always high volume because sometimes they look for the perfect play, and as you mentioned, it's the distant cousin of the snake charmer at times, right? Sometimes they pass up the shot, rebound, attack because they want something better, but today was prettier. Today was a better example of kind of bringing the lunch bucket along with this high skill and it leading to a special thing in terms of the goal. But as a trio, yes, they were on for 1 against, but scored 2 again. So I mean, they're back to kind of being on the positive side of that ledger. So taking some strides for sure. And again, were there some shifts? And I would even say here too, Sean, I mean, it wasn't all roses for that line. I would say that, something I have to share is that, the Blackhawks were sending out their 4th line with Smith and Maroon against the Jets' top line, and the Jets weren't owning that line at various times. And again, I wouldn't say it's concerning, but it was an example of, the worker bees from the other line were kind of keeping that line in check, but they pushed through and persevered, and then they ended up getting the game winner as well. So, I mean, again, I think there's always going to be room for improvement at times, but it's like what we talked about at the start of the year. They were being outscored, but whenever the Jets needed a big goal, guess which line is usually getting it?
Right. Ken, the more that you color this in for me, the more I like, again, at the beginning of this, I think you heard me when I was going on, but I'm looking from a distance. I'm looking from a stat sheet. But what I thought that I was looking at was something that I recognized. And what I recognized was the beginning of the season with the Jets, where they were finding their way. Now, again, I'll always say this: that for the found a way to win crowd, a lot of times for me, finding a way to win is is code word for we played terribly and just ended up winning the game because the other team shot themselves in the foot or puck luck or circumstances or whatever it is. This, to me, the more that you talk about it, goes back to what we saw from them in the beginning of the game. Have a structure. That structure is there to make life absolutely miserable for the opposition. That comes in the form of teams not getting to possess the puck very much. That comes in the form of teams not getting a lot of shots. That comes in the form of teams scoring goals, but not being able to stack more and more goals on top of each other. And then when you add to that the idea that the Winnipeg Jets we're back to that conversation about, because, so I think someone was pointing out, and I don't know if they're right or not, but someone had pointed out in the chat room, they thought that the first line with the third pairing got socked into their zone and had some problems and stuff like that. So we're back there, right, to the early season conversation about, well, that line at 5-on-5, but you can forgive some 5-on-5 foibles or some ugliness in your own zone. And did you say, Ken, that their second goal was scored against that top line?
It was, yeah, the one with 13 seconds left. Yeah. Was it?
So, yeah. So, yeah, they're getting scored on again. I think I used the line earlier on, there's something to be, maybe you can't celebrate too much when it's the line that's basically putting out the fire that they started. But the long and the short of it is, this sounds to me like a game in which the Jets got to their structure, made life miserable for their opposition, did not break that structure in an attempt to chase goals. But in the end, they don't have to chase goals because their top line is back to scoring those opportune goals that tie games, send them into overtime, or have them outright win games. To me, this just sounds like, that beginning stretch of the Jets, it wasn't entirely dominant, right? Like, they beat Minnesota in overtime a game after they went to overtime against the Chicago Blackhawks. So even when they were winning and winning and winning, it was still close against a team like the Blackhawks, who have proven to not be that great of a team. But to me, I feel like this win is starting to harken back to the Winnipeg Jets pattern that we saw quite often game to game at the beginning of the year.
For sure. And I mean, that's what they need from them. And I think that this is an opportunity. We talked about the level of competition rising. I would also say that, a week playing at home ice, it's not going to happen overnight. And there still are games every other night, and they have a back-to-back on Sunday. Yes, I get all of those things. But what the Jets are doing is they've pushed through the toughest, heaviest part of the schedule. And now they got to kind of get back to speed and get up. I mean, that's what I saw in the last couple games. They raised the speed quotient a little bit today, much better again. And they'll have to continue to raise it when Boston and Vegas comes to town. But I just think they've put themselves in a position where they can get back to looking like they were looking earlier on in the year. And that's what Scott Arniel said. He said, no matter who you're playing, when the Jets play this style of hockey, when they're committed to pressuring the puck in all three zones, they're a very difficult team to beat. And that's what they're going to need to continue to show kind of leading up to the Christmas break, Sean, because, I mean, let's not forget, I think it was last year, unless I'm getting the years mixed up, like they laid that beating on Boston in the last game before the break. That was last year, right? Yeah, when the line with Velarde and Scheifele and Ehlers was going wild. But, there's an opportunity here. And, we talked about them getting passed by Minnesota and, looking up in the standings and how they probably didn't sit overly well with them. Fact of the matter is, the Jets are the first team to 20 wins. They've got 40 points in the bank, but now they got to start kind of, honing in on some of the issues that need to get cleaned up. I mean, power play is one thing, Sean, they got to do a little better job. I didn't really, they had some nice entries, but there wasn't much danger being created by the Jets on the power play. Yes, they got one on the 5-on-3 the other day, but it just hasn't been as, the attack mentality that they've been using at 5-on-5 in the last two games. I think they need to get into a little bit more of a attack mentality on the power play here. And that's something that they can, get better at. Obviously we're not saying they need to be at 50% or 40 even, but they need to generate a little bit more. And even when they don't score, they got to generate a little bit more positive momentum. That's another area where they can definitely elevate for sure. But overall, in terms of their 5-on-5, looking that way is important for them. And if they can do that, then they can have success against the likes of Boston and Vegas, and start kind of quieting that narrative that the Jets aren't beating enough quality teams. Now, only they can do that. I still think they have quite a few wins against good teams, but they need to elevate against some of those teams. You know, they lost their head-to-head with Vegas. They're going to want to even the score. Like I mentioned, Boston playing much better since Joe Sacco took over, 4 wins in a row. So it's a fun week ahead. I think we always talk about what we're going to learn. We're always learning about the Jets. This is a big week for them in terms of the learning. Waiters 27, Eric Comrie better be playing tomorrow. He is playing tomorrow. So don't worry about that. He's ready for start number 7. And, you know, the Jets are going to have to be ready for a Columbus team, like I said, that's been playing a little better, you know, and, you know, Columbus was in the news this week. There we go. Another person mentioning Trouba.
Okay, hold on. I got to pull you away because we got bills that we got to pay here.
Oh, sorry.
So I just wanted to say that with the Winnipeg Jets returning to their style of game, I think that that's what they need to have. That, you know, they do that. That's going to pay off for them. And if you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. And Ken, you are thinking exactly what I am thinking here in this situation, which I started. This is a great question. Tracy O says Trouba was a salary dump. Oh, sorry, this is the one I'd lost it. Oh, geez, I had it anyways. It was a question about whether or not this opens up the potential for defense to move out of Anaheim. I am hearing down here with a bunch of the national media that this puts Cam Fowler in a position where they would be interested potentially in moving him. This is a guy, Ken, if I'm correct in hearing, I think you've heard the same things, but we always talk about how the Winnipeg Jets, once they like a guy, they like a guy. Right. Cam Fowler is one of the guys that they've liked in the past, and I'm sure still like. As soon as the Trouba deal happened, and I saw they had what they have going on there, and they also have a bunch of young defensemen that they want to start bringing in. So what they want to do is they want to bring in Trouba, and they want him to kind of lead the way and be the guy that their young guys follow through that. That to me makes a guy like Fowler dispensable. And if that's the case, I would think the Winnipeg Jets would be one of the teams clamoring for his services.
Yeah, I mean, Hammy's mentioned this before. Jeff Hamilton, that interest, and I mean, it probably dates back to the 2010 Memorial Cup, where Fowler was on that ridiculous Windsor Spitfires team at the Memorial Cup that they won against Brandon in the final. But yeah, I mean, Elliot Friedman, our friend and colleague, had mentioned that the Ducks had kind of been working with Fowler already going back to the off season. They weren't going to panic and make him a move right away, but I think Fowler also has some trade protection, so they would have to be some convincing being done on that front as well. But I mean, not saying that it's impossible, and I do think it's a possibility. But he has a big ticket, and he has some control, so we'd see where it goes. And I would also say this, Sean. I mean, and again, I haven't talked to enough people around the situation, but I'm not certain that Jacob is going to finish his contract with the Anaheim Ducks. I don't think that it lines up with their window of contention, and Jacob hates losing. So I don't know that, finishing the year and a half with Anaheim is going to be the case either. But again, lots can happen, and we'll see how it all goes. And the reason why I mentioned Trouba also is that, Columbus was considered to be the front runner to get Trouba. And it sounds like maybe they were on his list and he didn't waive or something like that, I think. But anyways,
I don't know why they would have made that move. That move does not make sense to me. I think they probably like the idea of Werenski and Trouba together on the same team. I think they like those two guys in their history.
Oh, yeah.
The American program. But there's too many good young guys.
There's a lot
coming up in that program to start taking too many seats away from them. But then again, maybe
their right side is not as thick, is not as deep, right?
Right.
Matejchuk's a left shot D, and probably knocking on the door already. But Provorov, I think, is in his last year, so all kinds of kind of balls in play here. But for people who are wondering about the Jets, I mean, does Jacob Trouba make sense for the Jets? In some ways, yes. He has a lot of the qualities, but the Jets they don't have room for 8. So this is how I would put it. The Jets were not going to be able to absorb the entire salary of a guy like Jacob Trouba, but could they take a 25 or 50%? You weren't getting that from the Rangers. I don't know that you can get it from the Anaheim Ducks either, but it would be more likely that it would be easier to deal with the Ducks because they don't have salary cap issues. But I'm not expecting a reunion, though. I think that Jacob would help the Jets defense core, but I mean, the Jets are also probably looking for the 2019 or 2018 version of Jacob Trouba if that player is out there.
I mean, I think I texted you and I actually that made a ton of sense. I just don't think that he was ever coming back. The one thing
agreed.
that I will say, there's been a lot of chatter in the chat room here about it being like a pure salary dump and all these kind of things. Jacob Trouba made it kind of clear that they were trying to make this move beforehand. I don't know what it is, but the understanding that I keep hearing whispered over and over, something has happened and something went sour between these two sides and went sour some time ago. Clearly, the way that Jacob talked about it so candidly after the trade has something to do with that. Here's just a quick one, Ken, before we get into some of the some of our plays here. But I know that, and I've heard a lot of players talk about this. And I know that Kelly Rudy, I believe, talked about it on Hockey Night in Canada in our pregame show here before the game, which a lot of people would have missed because the Jets game was either still on or coming to an end. But he'd said something about the idea that, that no trade list was done in good faith. And for those people who don't know, the Rangers were working on a workaround where they basically said, look, you either waive and go to some of these different places, or we're going to put you on waivers and get you to that team one way or another, and then you'll have no choice of where you end up. And Kelly had said, and this would be a player's position, no doubt, this is would be like against good faith. And while I do agree that's the case, I also don't have a massive amount of empathy for people who are making like I'm one of these guys who doesn't think no trade list should exist in the first place. Like I don't know. I just think it's anti-competitive. It takes and it locks guys into situations that are bad for both the player and the team. Beyond that, the idea that I think if there's a loophole for a team to get out from underneath underneath a contract that a player is not living up to, I am not of the belief that someone should get an $8 million contract and not live up to it. And so while it was done in good faith, right now, I'm not saying Jacob Trouba didn't live up to it in this case, but I, to be honest with you, am all for the idea of teams exploring ways to get around no movement clauses and no trade clauses. I honestly do not have that much of a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, difference between full no trade or full no move, and because full no move means you can't waive, right? But I mean, he didn't have that. Right. I mean, it's a tough situation. I mean, it's a ruthless business at times. There's no doubt. I know what you're saying about underperforming and things of that nature, but
let's put it this way:
when you're underperforming, then your choice is to buy the player out. So
right, or do what they did here, right? Like they found a way to bring a hammer to the negotiations that was strong enough that it worked.
Oh, sure,
really it worked. And I guess I would put it like this: how Jacob Trouba earlier in his career sat out on the Winnipeg Jets in an effort to force their hand. Right now, is that good faith? Was he conducting himself in good faith when he didn't show up in Winnipeg because he didn't want to be here anymore, despite the fact that, he was under contract? He wasn't under contract. He wasn't under contract, but still, I mean, I don't look at that and say, okay, well, that doesn't count as a non-good faith situation. I think players will take actions that smack of not good faith. So I don't have that massive of a problem if it's going in the other direction. Regardless, Jacob Trouba was still going to end up somewhere playing a kid's game for millions of dollars. Yes, I understand that it's hard to pick up and move your family, but I saw a clip today
and they
of
me too. So
I saw a clip today of Charles Barkley in that clip that he talks about load management, and he makes the point of listen, these guys have the best shoes going. They've got doctors. They've got people looking after them. You know who needs load management days? Doctors, nurses, teachers, sanitation workers, right? Like, and I am all for the professional athletes who can see that, who can see, hold on a second here. We've got a pretty amazing thing going on here. Regardless, Jacob Trouba is going to end up moving on and living the kind of lifestyle that 97% of the population would dream of living. I have a hard time feeling massive amount of empathy for a player who feels like the team acted not in good faith. Then again, it doesn't matter what I think.
Then get it out of the CBA is what I would say.
Sure.
I mean,
sure. But I mean, what if they're finding a workaround? That's just it. That's what lawyers.
It's not the spirit of the rule, though. I mean, I think that's the point.
And I guess my point is that I'm not overly bothered that it's not in the spirit of the rule. Anyways, we got to get moving here. Your Johnson Group got you covered. Play of the game.
Yeah, it was pretty late in the first period. I think I texted you here. Hawks had a 2-on-1, and it looked like it was going to be a backdoor tap, but Hayden Fleury, who continues to just get the job done out there, Sean, quite frankly, broke it up. I don't know who the player was going to the back post, but he did not let it happen. So we're going to go with that. It was 3:45 to go in the first. Fleury breaks up the 2-on-1 with just a nifty little bit of stick work and the variety that doesn't cost you any penalty minutes. So that's my Johnston Group got you covered play from the OGs.
All right. I have nothing to weigh in on because these are the kind of details that you miss when you don't watch a game and don't do your homework. I'm just like floating through the test here, just trying to pick up. Here I am over here looking over at Ken's test, and I'm copying everything that I possibly can from it. I don't have to copy this one though. Do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more about coverage that no one out there can copy because no one does it like the Kenny and Renny OGs, the Johnston Group. Ken, your keg save of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, actually, Connor Hellebuyck made a pretty good save on Pat Maroon that I recall, and we're going to go with that one. Maroon had another really good chance that was tipped into the seats by Neil Pionk, but Maroon had a couple really good shifts, including one really good dangle. I mean, he also got dangled by Mark Scheifele when he was caught flat-footed. But the Hellebuyck save, I mean, he obviously wasn't overly busy with 14 shots total in the game and only 6 in the last 2 periods in total. So the save off Maroon is going to be my choice for the keg save of the game in this one.
All right. Doesn't matter what Ken thinks. Definitely doesn't matter what I think today. Matters what you think. Share with us your hashtag, the keg save of the game. You're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And the winner from our last show, that would be TK. TK. You know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of, well, I'm not in the city of Winnipeg. They're in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And what great timing for TK and a whole bunch of our winners that we're going to be having this month, because it's just the perfect season to head down to the keg for a little pre-Christmas. Maybe you have a little bit of a party. Maybe it's a party just with yourself. Regardless, one of the best things that you can get heading into the Christmas season, gift certificates to the keg. Treat yourself, folks. It's just absolutely great. And that brings us to our lamplighter. Ken, what do you got?
Yeah, 2 repeatable goals. I'm going to give you the GW, and I'm going to take the Niederreiter goal because of the way that the battering ram third line, checking plus line played today. I'm going to go with the setup from Appleton to Niederreiter that tied the game and sort of stabilized things, and then I'll leave the other one for you to go with.
Yeah, you know what? Because
it's the repeatable goal that you've been calling for, so I'm not stealing. I'm not stealing it from you this time. You
the
can
Velarde one is one that I really like. You know, like just get the puck to the net, and it's, you know, when you've got a player like that, a big player. When you're going out and you're stepping in front of a shot like that, and you're tipping the puck the way that you do, you've got like guys who are like trying to give you cross checks in the back of the ribs. You may get the puck in the face, all those different kind of things. Gabe Vilardi walks in there and is like making a difference. But yes, I like that one. Chaos in front of the net. Like you had said, Ken broke it down really good, but chaos created in front of the net by Vilardi. Just a really good play by a scoring type player with Kyle Connor, who puts the rebound in a spot or puts the puck in a spot where he could create that kind of rebound. This is one of those passes off the goaltender and Mark Scheifele just being in the right spot. Great goal, great game winner. I watched it. I took a look and I thought to myself, okay, all 3 goals that the Jets score on this night, I am really, really big on. They're the kind of goals I think the Jets have needed to get back to. It's good to see them get back to this. And it would be good to see your lamplighters of the game, because if you do share them with us, you're automatically entered to win a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you yours, head on down to their tap room at 11290 Kenniston for all the beers, all the pizzas, all the good times. They have it all there. Don't waste any time. Get on down there. Another great place to go during the holiday season. And the winner of our Lamplighter from last game, that would be Jeff Beam. Jeff Beam, it's spelled Boehm. I think it's Beam. I hope I pronounced it right. If I didn't, regardless, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me your email, and I will send you a voucher for a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. It is the nectar of the gods. Do you have anything to say before we go?
Should maybe get that on a t-shirt also, but no, just a fun day here. As I mentioned, Ken Senior down in Chicago met me here yesterday. Sean had a nice deep dish at Giordano's last night. He had a great time at the game, and we went to Harry Carey's for dinner and heading down to let you take care of the game. I'll be watching, but I'll be watching from Minnesota. We're Vikings and Vulcans tomorrow for Kenny Senior and I. So pretty cool moment on the horizon, but
that's great.
Fun good sports stuff. Day today.
I went to Harry Carey's with Zeiss and Speck one time. It was absolutely a great night. 2 of my favorites. Speck actually texted me and complimented me on my tracking down of Steve Stais today, who came over, and we had a good conversation about what happened behind the scenes with the news of Brady Tkachuk supposedly on the block, which he just could not have denied in any stronger terms. It was one of those moments where it was nice to get that reveal. I'll tell you this about Steve Stais. You and I have been talking behind the scenes about Travis Green. Travis Green is like shot up like a rocket into one of my top 5 coaches to have pregame conversations with. Jared Bednar is always really, really high up there. We've got the pleasure. Well, I don't, unless I see him at the end of the game, but Dean Evison, Manitoba boy, is always so much fun to have a conversation with. Anyways, Green is absolutely great, but I'll tell you this, like the transparency with which Steve Stais conducts himself, his ability, the way he makes himself available to the media, sits Ken before every pregame. He sits not off on his own. He sits right there amongst all the media. People go in, chat with him, extremely available. You were talking about Rick Bonus's son being part of the team there.
Dave Poulin too.
Yeah, Dave Poulin, another absolutely great, always have been a really, he's a TSN guy. Dave Poulin has always treated me like a million. When I first started out in this industry, and I was, it takes you a couple years to get going. Dave Poulin would always like come out of nowhere and say hi to me and call me by name when he had no right knowing my name at that time, which means he went out of his way to learn my name so that when he ran into me, he could have a conversation with me. So an absolutely great guy. They are the Sens organization, and the way they are conducting themselves, an easy organization to want to see good things happen to. I know that there's a lot of fans out there who can't stand to have that said about other teams, but there's a lot of good hockey people in this organization. I will say this. I don't know if this is my last Sens game that I cover this year. Oh, it definitely won't be, because I'll be doing a Sens Jets game in Winnipeg. I believe it's the first game after Christmas, but regardless, it's been, they've treated me really great here. Ian Mendez, former Sportsnet guy, former TSN guy, who is now one of their PR guys. I gave him a shout out in the show for one of the tweets that he did to deny that story. But great organization to have dealt with. And today just really hit that home with the way that Steve Staios not only made himself available, but like came over to chat. And then we just got all this great stuff out of him. Love it. You know me. I am massive fan of the Truth Serum. Loved it when Rick Bowness came to town and started dropping the Truth Serum. And when you get, people in the game who are willing to kind of be open and honest and have conversations with you and like try and open up relationships, it's really good. And the Senators are doing just a great job of it. Anyways, Ken, anything to say before we go?
Travel smoothly. Enjoy the game. See you Tuesday.
No. Oh yeah, you're not okay. Yeah, that's right. I will be back.
I'll see you on the air, but I won't see you on the air.
But yeah, I will race back. Hopefully catch some of my daughter's curling tomorrow and then make it to the game. Or maybe I'll just have to go straight to the game. Regardless, you'll see us on the show after this tomorrow. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We really do appreciate it. We appreciate you waiting and coming out the way that you did. We are lucky to have you. We are also lucky to have our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. And for us, that's Vittorio Rossi, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, Cambrian Credit Union, Arctic Spas, the Johnston Group, Trans-Canada Brewing Company, and of course, the Keg. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. We are looking forward to doing this with you all over again tomorrow. Bye-bye.